So John the Baptist was a traveling preacher of sorts. Now, sure, we know him as a baptizer, and he was a baptizer. He was the cousin of Jesus, and he was tasked with telling the world that the Messiah was coming. But he was also a traveling preacher. Now, traveling preachers aren't that common anymore. When they do show up in town, they're usually invited by a specific church, and so people know that they're coming, and the audience knows pretty much what they're getting into when they show up. But in John's time, it was different. Traveling preachers were more common. They were a form of entertainment. So many traveling preachers would have a shtick that they would do to get people to come out. And so they were, people would come out there not just to hear them preach, but to see a show. And so, perhaps that's what I am for you, right? Don't answer that. But if you came today to be entertained, I can live with that, okay? In John's time, the entertainment value of a traveling preacher was important because it meant that they would get more money. The better you were entertained, the more money you were likely to give, and the better that I would eat tonight, right? So let me do a little dance for you, and then we'll pass the plate. Of course, if I'm trying to pull a few more dollars out of your wallet, I'm probably going to tell you what you want to hear, right? Look at you fine people. You're all great people. You're God's favorites, in fact. You are God's favorites. You're doing everything right. Way to go. Now, all you need to do to be even more perfect is to show your faithfulness. You're very faithful people, through the offering. So let's see how faithful you are, okay? John doesn't do that. He opens with, "You're all children of snakes." Snakes, all of you, right? Who told you to come here? Do you really think you're going to get my approval? Fat chance. Fools. John, buddy, what are you doing, right? I mean, that's not how you win friends. That's not how you get people to give more. And so it seems that John doesn't really care about that. All he really wants to do is blast the Jewish leaders that believe themselves to be better than anyone else. And he says that. He says, just because you're descendants of Abraham doesn't mean you're in. You don't get in by having the right parents. You have to show that you deserve it. And that's how this passage is often interpreted. John's words seem like a license to reject the elitists. John rails against the Jewish leaders, the tax collectors, the soldiers who are hated by the common people. And it seems like he was using the hatred of the people to foment the crowd, to stir them up. But not exactly. Because John doesn't actually reject these folks. Rather, he recognizes that they are there because something has prompted them. They want to know what they can do to be better. In order for them to even ask the question, they must already be a part of the included ones. And if they knew they were out already, they wouldn't even bother asking how they could do better. So John does not tell them to go away. He says, "You snakes, go away. There's no hope for you," right? No, he doesn't say that. Doesn't say that at all. He also doesn't take advantage for himself. The crowd asks him, "What should we do?" And John has the opportunity to take advantage. What should you do? Well, you should support me so that I can pray for you to make sure that you have a better chance of getting in. The more you give, the more I'll represent you, right? Doesn't do that. His response doesn't benefit him at all. It benefits others. He says to this entitled crowd, he says, "I want you to notice those that need something. If you see someone that needs a shirt, give your extra one. If you see someone who needs food, give them food." Now the giving here is important, but I think even more so, it's the seeing. If you see someone, you have to see someone in order to notice if they need help. And how many of these entitled people even notice that society has rejected folks? in it. There are two other groups that asked John what they should do, and these are possibly the only two groups that are hated more than the elite. They're the tax collectors and the soldiers. Now, it's easy to imagine why these groups were hated. I mean, who wants to like a tax collector? The tax collector comes in, takes all your money. And the soldiers were Roman soldiers. They were occupiers. They were brutal in their keeping of the peace. They were not liked because they forced people to do their bidding. But each of these groups also took whatever they wanted. Tax collectors were allowed to collect whatever they could. So if the family owed $200 in taxes, if the tax collector could get $300 out of them, the tax collector got to keep the extra. The family didn't have any choice in paying it. If they didn't pay it, they were thrown in jail. So what choice did they have? The soldiers, however, they were different. They could take whatever they wanted in the name of peacekeeping. If they wanted your goat for dinner, then they got your goat. If they needed your place to sleep in, they kicked you out of your bed, they got to sleep there, and you were outside. They were explorers. And here they are in front of John, and they're asking what's required of them. Now, John could have said anything. He could have told them to stop working for the government, to join to stop being oppressors, to join the opposition, the uprising, right? Instead, John tells them, be just. Be fair. He doesn't tell them to quit their jobs. He says, just be fair about your job. Do your job, but be fair. Collect only what you're required to collect. Soldiers, don't take from people just because you can. You get paid for what you do. Be appreciative of your pay. Be happy with that. Be fair. But the more important piece of this is that these exploiters, these cheats, these power-hungry folks who were not rejected, they were not rejected here either. John didn't tell them that they were doomed to hell. Rather, they were told that justice means that they see people as people. See people when you look at them. Don't see what you can get out of them. Don't see someone to exploit. Don't see someone that doesn't deserve love and respect. See a person. So what does that mean for us? Well, okay, if you're an exploiter, stop. All you exploiters in the room. Not sure if there are any, but if you are, stop. See a person, not a paycheck. See a person that God loves and loves them. If you're the one that feels rejected, if you feel like you're not worthy of God's love, if you feel like you've been unfairly judged, then know that God does not see you that way. If you expect that you will be unfairly judged in the future, for whatever reason, that could be all of us, right? If you know that you will face rejection without any consideration, know that God does not participate in this. God does not condone it. God says through the words of John, I see you. I see you. I see the person that needs a shirt. I see the person that needs food. I see a person that needs love. I see a person that needs respect. I see a person. I see you. The gift that God gives us through the birth of Christ and the message of John is that God sees us. God sees us as people who are worth redeeming. God sees us as worth it. Not because of what we've earned, but because God chooses us. God sees us. A people who are not seen. God includes us, a people who are rejected. God loves us, a people who desperately need love. And that is the good news that John was called to give. Would you pray with me, please? God, we give thanks for the ways in which you treat us, which is not what we deserve, but what you have chosen to give us. Thank you for seeing us. Even if we feel like the world doesn't see us, like we're invisible, thank you for seeing us. Thank you for choosing us. And help us to see others who you see, but maybe the world doesn't. It's in your name that we pray.